Joining us now, former campaign manager for Donald Trump's winning bid for the White House and now senior advisor to Trump's transition team, Kellyanne Conway. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
That's quite a title. Here we are. So, is Rudy Giuliani going to be DNI? What has Rudy told you?
I talked to him on Sunday, spent some time with him out at Bedminster.
Stop. You're missing my joke.
Stop.
Okay.
It's not up to the mayor.
It's not?
There you go. That's
are
what
you
we
sure,
wanted to hear.
Kellyanne? Because
I'm absolutely sure who will make the final decision.
All right.
The mayor will make the final decision?
No, the president-elect, as well it should be, with input from the vice president-elect.
So obviously we had the breaking news this morning that Donald Trump's not going to be pursuing investigations against Hillary, and the administration's going to... Do you think he'll encourage Republicans on the Hill to stay away from that as well and focus more on their legislative agenda?
I think when the president-elect, who's also the head of your party now, Joe, tells you before he's even inaugurated he doesn't wish to pursue these charges, it sends a very strong message, tone and content, to the members. And I think Hillary Clinton still has to face the fact that a majority of Americans don't find her to be honest or trustworthy. But if Donald Trump can help her heal, then perhaps that's a good thing. Look, I think he's thinking of many different things as he prepares to become the president of the United States, and things that sound like the campaign aren't among them.
Josh.
Tell us what's going on in the press. I mean, traditionally, presidents summon in the mainstream media, TV anchors like Trump did yesterday, and essentially they bury the hatchet. And it doesn't sound like, from the cover of my New York Post right here, that that's exactly what transpired yesterday.
He buried a hatchet.
Well, he buried a hatchet in the backs of most of the major TV anchors. But what was the purpose of the meeting, and did it go off like it was intended to?
I have a different view of the meeting, having sat there and having helped to organize it. I actually thought it was a very lively, spirited exchange.
There's no debate on that, right?
Well, but from my perspective, it's very simple. President Trump and the media have to share joint custody of the nation and its people for the next 4 or 8 years. So it's highly productive and in everyone's interest to find a way to do that. Obviously, it was a very hard-fought, long campaign, bruising. I believe Donald Trump received an unprecedented deluge of criticism and in some places unfair coverage. I know that firsthand. But he is the president and they are the press, and they have to find a way to mutually assured, I would say, non-destruction.
Right?
Yes, mutually assured.
Good.
But look, what's being covered, I don't know why people are in an off-the-record meeting and feel the need to divulge details, A. But B, that may not have come from anybody in the meeting, I'm pretty sure. But B, most importantly, the exchange that they had, the questions that were asked of him that he answered, had a lot to do with his first 100-day vision, had a great deal to do with, will you follow through on this campaign promise? What about your view of the world? Without getting...
It wasn't as hostile as it read in the Post.
It just wasn't. And the way you know that, Joe, is how people reacted afterwards. There was a receiving line for Steve Bannon. So there's some breaking news for you. Many people wanted to, meet him and talk to him, make some eye contact, exchange some business cards with him. That's just a fact. And secondly, there was a lot of congenial conversation outside in the atrium, outside of the room where we all were. Nobody left there in a huff. Nobody has called me and complained that they felt that they had been bamboozled. And
as I said before, for people that are just tuning in now, Jeff Zucker takes a lot of the slings and the arrows in there. But even during the meeting, I heard that there are even some nice asides to Zucker. That this was not
absolutely.
Harold. Yeah, this was. I mean, Zucker and
they used to work
Donald
together
have
been
been friends
Apprentice.
forever.
They've been friends forever.
Donald, as Meek and I know, he can be neurotic one moment and be a friend the next.
Or still neurotic.
Well, you're still neurotic.
But
yeah, exactly.
And look, the way that was described about Zucker specifically is just false. Donald Trump did not say that. I sat right next to him. Sat right between the two of them, actually.
Yeah.
And that's
he
just
didn't
false.
say that in there.
That's just false. And actually, not to divulge confidentialities, but after that particular meeting with the press, which went on for 75 minutes, it's not like anybody got up and left early. It was an amazing meeting, really, and I'm glad NBC was well represented there. After the meeting, Jeff Zucker and Donald Trump went back up to Trump's office because CNN was taking pictures of Trump for some special they're doing. So this is not reflective. I know it's good for clicks and it's good for...
It was really good for clicks.
The president-elect made news with the video video talking about TPP and regulatory relief and the things he might do in the first couple days. I guess if indeed the president wants to withdraw from TPP and engage in bilateral agreements, can we interpret from that a Mitt Romney kind of Secretary of State is coming and maybe not a Rudy Giuliani kind of Secretary of State is coming? Because you would have to believe you want someone who can negotiate deals, someone with business experience, someone like Donald Trump in many ways to serve as Secretary of State.
Well, Rudy Giuliani and Mitt Romney and Donald Trump all have that in common. They're successful businessmen, job creators, great negotiators, tough negotiators. But what happens with TPP will be the total call of President-elect Trump. And he made it a huge priority in that video because it's something he ran on and he means. It created a schism in the Republican Party, frankly, last year. You had Paul Ryan and Ted Cruz co-authoring an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal supporting it, and then you had Ted Cruz changing his mind on it. You have, I think it was a big fault line within the party in terms of, are you on this side of it or that side of it? But whoever he has as his Secretary of State and throughout his cabinet, Harold is going to have to.
I'm not being critical of him. I think it gives Democrats and others like me comfort that he's willing to reach out and even forgive those and look beyond the kind of things that might have happened during the campaign. Sure. I mean, look, that's what I meant. That was where I was coming from.
If that's where you're coming from, then everybody should take a really hard, long look at what's happened just in the last 2 weeks since he was elected. He started out that night saying, I will be the president of all Americans, including those who did not vote for me. And since then, he's had everyone from Eva Moskowitz to Bob Johnson from BET to Tulsi Gabbard, the Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii yesterday. These have been incredibly inspiring meetings for him because not everyone will end up in the cabinet or the government. And most of them are not even seeking that. I have to tell you, as somebody who's there, they're seeking the opportunity to talk to the president-elect early in his formation, giving advice and counsel.
Will he appoint a Democrat?
Guys, we got to go to break, unfortunately.
Will he appoint a Democrat to a top
Guys, we got to go to break. I'm sorry, we're way over. We've got Thomas Friedman up next. We just want to thank you and Donald for making sure that Ari Emanuel was only there just to advise and consent and not have a position. That
It
would
was
be quite
cool.
ugly.
It was cool to be with him.
Kellyanne, thank you.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Boom. All right,
Up
Kellyanne,
next,
thank you so much for being
Thomas
with us.
Friedman.